Well, welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. For those of you that have forgotten what Calum looks like and sounded like, he is joining us on the show. And the last time it feels like he was on the show, he was so confident that we were going to win the bloody lot. Well, we're now 7 games without a win, Calum. That confidence has rapidly faded away, I'm sure.
Yeah, I said we're going to win the lot now. Winning a game would be nice. It's not going well, Glenn. It's not going well at all. I'm not enjoying it.
No, the project is, don't know, is that a test? Yeah, Cormac's project with Stephen Glass. Now, Stephen Glass came out in his post-match conference and said there's going to be negativity from the outside of the Dons camp. This podcast may or may not contain severe levels of negativity based on what we saw today. But at the same time, we'll try and, well, I don't even know how you can put a positive spin on it, let's be honest. So the team news from today was David Bates getting his first start in place of Declan Gallagher. So why not play two centre-backs? You play a midfielder alongside your new centre-back. Were you surprised that it was Gallagher that was dropped? Because I don't really think it was, I don't think you can say he was rested. Dropped and Bates playing alongside McCrory?
I don't know. Glass seems to be a big fan of McCrory at centre half. I think, I suppose, as a ball player, it sort of works, I guess. I was happy to see David Bates come in, though. I suppose Gallagher, I said previously that he wasn't quite settled. Just like he's not getting like a run of games at all. So he just doesn't seem to be up to speed or whatever it is. Performing at that level required. So, I was happy to see David Bates come in. I think David Bates actually did quite well, all things considered as well. One of the very, very, very few positives. But we've found one already, so it's going all right.
Something to cheer about already, and more than we had to cheer about in the 90 minutes or however long you lasted at Pittodrie today. 84 for me. But in fairness to Ross McCrory, I was, maybe a bit critical of him being included in the starting lineup when you see Bates named. I suppose maybe just expecting it to be alongside Gallagher, but I actually thought not only did Bates play well, you're absolutely right, but I also thought McCrory had a relatively solid game throughout, and it wasn't him that was, at fault for the goal at the end of the day. There were a few other changes and maybe a few surprises as well. Matty Longstaff finding himself on the bench and not featuring at all today. J. Emmanuel Thomas with another typical Jet performance. So I'll get your opinions on that in a second. But Marley Watkins missing out completely through injury. Austin Samuels coming in. Much needed burst of pace and energy that the team was severely lacking from last week. No Gary Woods again, also missing out through injury, which saw young Tom Ritchie take his place on the bench. And surprising, no Conor McLennan this week, not even featuring on the bench. Niall McGinn took his place on the bench and said no reason given for that. I think when you looked on later on in the game when we were needing a bit of pace and injection and we chose that to be Niall McGinn, kind of sums up where we are just now.
I think so, especially when Samuels had to go off as well. I thought, by the way, Austin Samuels probably our biggest threat going forward, which is interesting considering I thought he was a striker brought in. He's been playing on the wing. Pretty sure he's right-footed, and like the most dangerous thing that happened all game was him lashing balls across the box with his left foot. So a bit of a concern, but I thought.
Can I just make a point on that lashing the balls across the face of the box? He did this against Ross County as well. Can we stop, or can he stop blasting the ball at 100 mile an hour across the face of goal? And I think the one time he actually did play a decent ball across the face of goal, there was nobody on the end of it. It just needs that little bit of work there, that final ball, because for the threat he possesses, his final ball is severely lacking.
I think so. I think he's probably not a natural winger. That's probably the thing, because from all we heard, he was a forward, a striker who could play out wide rather than sort of the other way around, or as being an out-and-out winger. But so maybe it'll come with time, and obviously we've got that option to buy, so I suppose we'll see if that happens. But I think you're right in that we missed that sort of that bit of pace as well, because obviously we had him, but he had to go off. Johnny Hayes come on in his replacement, who I suppose did okay, but now again, I quite enjoyed some of his movement, to be honest. I might have slagged him off. Some of his movement today was much better than, for example, J. Manuel Thomas, who was standing static most of the time. So I'll give that to Niall McGinn.
Yeah, one thing we said on the review of the Motherwell game about, and even, a lot this season about how Ramirez is desperately needing a partner. If you're going to play a partner, Jet's got to be up there alongside him. I really don't know. First of all, I don't really know what Jet offers to this team just now, based on today and what we've seen so far this season. I'm not sure if Glass knows what role to play him in. He barely tracks back. He's cumbersome going forward, sloppy in possession, and this is, today. I'm not, on a whole. And I think for me, a largely frustrating performance from him. And I was expecting him to be the first person to come off, not Samuels, who I think, there was a lot of surprise around his substitution being replaced by Johnny Hayes. I expected it to be, if it was going to be Hayes coming on, it would have been for Jet. But, Glass coming out at full time and saying, look, Austin Samuels only had an hour in his legs today, with returning from injury, which is, obviously we missed his pace and directness against Motherwell. But if you can only get an hour out of him, would you, hindsight's a wonderful thing here, Callum, but would we have maybe been better suited to start a Teddy Jenks, a Johnny Hayes, and bring Austin Samuels on when St Johnstone are maybe tiring? Is that hindsight being a wonderful thing, or is it maybe a genuine, legitimate question to have of Glass and Aberdeen?
Obviously looking back, we think, that would be a brilliant idea, but for seeing that kind of thing, I suppose, is different. But I think it is a good point because he was getting the better of Sean Rooney in that first hour. Could you imagine how he would have done again in the last sort of 10 minutes against him? But just going back to Jet, you mentioned some of like his on the ball being sloppy in possession. Sometimes it's confusing. Sometimes his touch, his control is brilliant, and he looks like, that's why he was on the books at Arsenal once upon a time. And then other times it's like we've got a brick wall wearing a number 14 shirt. It can't control the ball to save his life. I just don't. I don't know what to do with him. I feel like Ramirez was sort of started the season at his best with Jet closer to him rather than coming in off the left, off the right, and then also that leaves a lot for Calvin Ramsey to do on the right hand side. You might have Funso Ojo supporting him from centre midfield, but then he's not a winger either. There's a lack of natural width on that side.
Yeah, and normally our right hand side has been our most potent attacking threat. Calvin Ramsey's probably been our most threatening player going forward, but Ojo didn't really kind of get into the game today, did a lot of running about with real threat. But young Calvin, who's been, amidst transfer talk with Everton, having scouted him last week at Fir Park alongside a host of other Premier League clubs, I don't know if it's just, the games are catching up with him now, but he looked, certainly towards the end of the game, he looked a bit out of, tiredness maybe creeping in. It'd been a long, frustrating game for him. But, it's just not picking on Calvin Ramsey in particular here. It's just, and it's maybe a testament to how good he's been this season and how obviously quiet he was today.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do really need to be careful with him, to be honest, because we forget he has just turned 18. He's basically still a kid, and he's playing with men every week and and more importantly against men week in, week out, which can leave him liable to burning out, which maybe he sort of suffered from today, which is it's not great. It's bound to happen. But then also on the flip side, when he's that good, you don't want to leave him out, do you?
No. Well, not when your replacement's Jack Kerr, I suppose, has been touted before.
Very true.
How, given the talk after last weekend was the midfield was a bit too crowded. Do you think we got the setup of the team right today? Obviously, Longstaff getting dropped, so Jet had come in, Samuels had come in. So I've seen folks saying it was maybe more of a diamond position, maybe three up top instead. Did you think we had the setup of the team correct today? We just maybe lacked personnel, and also because we hark back to the centre back pairings not having time to gel. Were we seeing that in the forward areas? Because Ramirez hasn't played with Jet for a few weeks now. Samuels has only played one game with Ramirez. Players are still getting to know each other. It's difficult because we've had a full week on the training pitch. We can't keep using that as an excuse going forward. But do you think we had the setup right, but we just lacked a bit of cohesion and once again lacked being clinical in the final third?
I think so. I think we set out positively, obviously, with Samuels, Ramirez and Jet all featuring, starting. I think we did just probably suffer from the lack of attacking options off the bench, obviously without Watkins, McLennan, Hedges. I think though it looked a bit laboured. It looked a bit sometimes a bit slow in the build up. It's just I don't know, but it's a bit of a concern. And it wasn't the lineup. Put it this way, the lineup was positive. It looked attacking, but then the way they were playing, it's not this free flowing attacking football really that we've been hoping to see yet. But it's very early days. So,
and interestingly, despite me leaving before full time, I managed to catch what Stephen Glass was saying at full time to Tyrone Smith, and he didn't seem to take kindly to Tyrone Smith questioning whether or not the fact that we were trying so hard to play the attacking brand of football was kind of hurting us. We're trying to play too nice football. We're not producing the results, and Stephen Glass didn't really take kindly to that line of questioning. So, but could you understand why he is getting frustrated?
Stephen Glass.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair question to ask. It's interesting, however, that Stephen Glass is being asked these questions when, after so long, McInnes never got posed these questions by his mates in the media, which is a bit convenient. But I don't know. I think it's a fair enough question to ask. But you can understand sort of Stephen Glass's frustration, I guess, because I think as well,
you'd be frustrated after another performance like that, where we do a lot of work with the ball, but we don't do anything at the right end of the pitch.
Well, I mean, I was keeping an eye on, and it's amazing what can happen when you go to games sober. I was keeping an eye on the clock so I think our first attempt was 25 minutes, and that was Ramirez's awful header, by the way. And then the first attempt on target was Austin Samuel's deflected shot in 35 minutes. We had a lot of the ball. Sometimes it was laboured, sometimes we did actually play some all right stuff, but it's the lack of end product again. It's very concerning. I would be interested to know what our conversion rate is from crosses, put it that way.
Well, certainly teams have got a better conversion rate of crosses at our end. I do remember that Samuel shot now was the one that was deflected and moved up to Xander Clark, probably about the only real save he had to make. The Ramirez header, definitely should have. That was a 50p header. And then the only other chance in the first half that I remember, because people like us to talk about the game, Calum, but there really wasn't much to talk about in that first half. That's why we're sitting here analysing the way that the kind of team sat up and played. The only other chance I remember was Lewis Ferguson swinging in the ball and Jet and Ramirez both failing to get on the end of it. But for all, again, the possession that we kept, I was texting Keith during the game and kind of hark back to, when we first started this podcast, I actually got a notification saying it was a year last Wednesday that we started on YouTube. So, if you're watching on there, and then, well, maybe if you're an Aberdeen fan, you might not be enjoying this, but I know we've got a few Hibs fans, not just Michael, but Rangers, Celtic, Hearts fans that do enjoy our content, especially just now not winning game. Make sure you hit that like button and join the fun, hit that subscribe button too. But just so frustrating that we're creating these chances but not doing anything with it.
Is I thought when Ramirez scored that goal against Hacken, I was like, oh, finally someone who's going to be on the end of those crosses all the time. We missed that sort of player since Aaron Rooney left, but it seems to be back to so many times that ball goes across that goal and there's no one there to prod it home. It's just so frustrating.
Even there was a couple of times he was trying like fancy flicks, and players aren't on the same wavelength as him.
No,
I don't know if
not at all.
that's him. I don't know if that's him just trying to be fancy when he should be keeping it simple. I'm not sure really kind of what it is that is going on, but in that first half as well, for as little we created, I genuinely don't remember St Johnstone having a serious attempt on goal.
I was keeping. I think that was in general. The first shot was 25 minutes. First one on target was 35. It was a really, really terrible first half of football, wasn't it?
To be honest, it was a really, really terrible game of football. Yeah. Full stop.
I came back from Edinburgh for the game, and I really wish I just stayed down there. It was not fun.
And funnily enough, the point you make about being sober, I was also sober, even though I'm currently drinking now that I'm home and need to drown the sorrows. But we mentioned COVID passports in the last episode. Brune attending today before, and he said it's his final fling before he's banned from attending Pittodrie in October. But what a final game to go out on for those that aren't double vaccinated and can't be attending. A horrible, horrible way to end, but also a horrible experience. And today fully reminds many people why they have to drink to watch Aberdeen.
I know. It was. Not the final thing Brune would have liked, but no. Also just it's very typical. It's very typical of Aberdeen. But we've got to give Stephen Glass time. That's what I'm just keeping telling myself, and we'll get back to winning ways, I'm sure. I feel like this is going to be a common occurrence. We'll go through spells of like playing the most beautiful football, winning games, and then we'll go through drab spells for a while. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster. Can't wait.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously we should say, Calum, we have to make sure people drink responsibly. Get that safety announcement in there. But for those of you that go to Aberdeen games home and away sober continuously, why and how do you do it? Because that is mental.
I respect them a lot. It was a very boring affair today. But we got through it. And you know what I will say actually on the note of alcohol, it seemed like there was a boisterous St Johnstone support for once, which I quite enjoyed. There was a group of maybe 30 young lads down the front, and they were giving it. Who the fuck is Stevie May? They were chanting and specking at someone, not me, but someone else, which I did enjoy. But fair play to them. They seem to have a good time. So I'd like to commend
big up the St Johnstone fans, and also big up getting away fans back into Pittodrie. Great to see away fans add something a bit to that atmosphere. Obviously disappointing that they had something to go home and celebrate with. But I just want to go back a second, Calum, just to a point that you raised earlier, because Stephen Glass said he knows there's going to be negativity from outside places. We have a lot to be negative about from what we've seen, but we need to also take into consideration what the point you raised there. We need to be giving Stephen Glass a chance. The team is still, as we've touched on, is still learning to play with each other. Players aren't getting consistent enough game time. We've got a very tough run of fixtures coming up after our trip to Paisley. How much time will Stephen Glass get, and how much patience, I suppose is the right word, can the support afford Stephen Glass? Because it's all well and good playing or trying to play, let's say, an exciting brand of football, but when the results don't come, football is a results-based business at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is very early days. Obviously, as you say, it does take time for these players to get to know each other, get to know the new style of play, and also it takes time for Glass to mould the squad. It'll take a few windows. And I'm not saying, by the way, that people should be turning on, whatever like that. But I'm saying perhaps Cormac will allow more time than the fans will, because I've got a feeling Dave is just going to throw anything at it that is required to make sure that there's some sort of success with his man Stephen Glass.
But how much then do you think? You made a good point actually, Focal. You're doing well and your good points today here.
Thank you.
The point about the media, the pressure that is coming not just from the fans, but will come from the press. Derek McInnes never really got a tough time from the press, but admittedly, Stephen Glass will undoubtedly get a tough time from the press, especially down in the West Coast. Cormac, rightly or wrongly, will be throwing everything at it to prove his appointment is correct, and obviously to bring the success that we as fans want at this club. But how dangerous a game could that be? Because you obviously have to. I'm just trying to get this right. You have to counter. You can't just throw any form of money at the club and hope that everything goes right, because we've got players on high wages. It's still tough times financially. I don't know, personally, only seeing 13,000 there today, maybe a bit disappointing. Again, if the results don't come, crowds won't come either. It's a fine balance right now.
It is. There's a lot of variables. You're absolutely right in that it is a risky game to play, throwing all that money at Stephen Glass. But yeah, I suppose we need to remember also that it is Stephen Glass's first proper managerial job too.
Yeah. Because the Atlanta B team's not, with all great respect to anyone from Atlanta tuning in, it's not real manager pressure, that Atlanta B team, is it?
Exactly. Exactly. There's not like Atlanta B fans, is there? It is the Sport Atlanta United. But also it's like for them that was all about developing players, getting them ready for that next step for Atlanta United, rather than being about results, which is as much as we'd like to develop our players here and obviously probably turn them into a profit, but it's also a lot about the results. So I suppose I honestly don't know, Glenn. It's just there's so many variables, there's so much to consider, but it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
Well, it's not very often that you're the one that remains largely positive and I'm the one bringing the negativity to the podcast. But I'm trying to be as balanced and as fair as possible, because people will be wanting us to talk about these sort of things. You described it as a roller coaster, a bumpy road. People are, the word transition seems to be getting banded around a lot this season. Glass is only on a rolling 1-year contract. Do we just have to accept that this will be a season of transition? It may not be a successful season in terms of the league, but if we want it to be successful in terms of silverware, we now need to see the focus on the Scottish Cup this year.
Of course we do. I think every season Aberdeen should be looking to win a Scottish Cup. Why not? St Johnstone got the cup double last season. Why couldn't we do something? But I think
we chuck the League Cup before it's even started.
Well, yeah, very true. But I think there is importance in the Scottish Cup this season, especially perhaps more so than usual, just simply because of how the League Cup went, how the league's not going to plan so far. Obviously, it didn't unfortunately make it to the Conference League group stages. I would say there's pressure on it though, and in terms of, you mentioned Stephen Glass's 1-year rolling contract, I think providing it's not a total disaster this season, then that was almost guaranteed to be given another season. And then I think that would be when my judgment then will really be made after that second season.
So you think regardless, he will see out this season? A lot of fans are saying, he'll get till Christmas, but you think because it's, largely being viewed as a transition, he will be given the whole season regardless, because to hark back to what McInnes said, he always worked a couple of windows in advance. Stephen Glass has only had one window to try and mould a team. We're still maybe, as fans, fickle as always, but it's probably too early to judge him. We're going through a bumpy road. And I think in the back of a lot of people's minds is how bumpy we are now we're seeing what's coming in terms of the fact that we are playing Celtic. After St Mirren, it's Celtic, Dundee, Hibs, Rangers, and then Hearts. So if it's a bumpy road now, it's going to be a very turbulent road in a few weeks' time.
But also, it could be great because imagine we just like turn up and smash them one time, like one of them, like or whatever. It could be fantastic. That's what I'm expecting this season. Just a load of ups and downs, and there'll be some great highs and some great lows. That's what I'm expecting.
And actually, it's a good point you make, because maybe when the pressure is not on us going into these games, because we are going in a poor run of form, it might actually suit us a little bit better, because the media, the fans are not expecting us to go and get a result. Right, we'll go out and do something. But I also think potentially outside of obviously the Rangers game, which is going to be at Ibrox, unfortunately it looks like no fans will be allowed in that game. Dunfermline currently the only domestic fans that have been allowed in Ibrox this season. Don't know how that's being allowed or how it's deemed fair, but all the other games are going to be at Pittodrie. So if we can get fans into Pittodrie and get some form of atmosphere, because let's be honest, the Red Shed is really struggling to create a decent atmosphere. Controversial opinion, I know, but football's all about opinions, folks. If we can generate something and provide an assistance from the stands to the team, who knows what can happen.
Yeah, I think to be fair, it makes a difference when there's actually something to sing and shout about rather than sweet Fanny Adams.
But I'll just go sheep. Yeah,
it's great fun. But also, I mean, on that note about the sort of attendance and things, obviously, I think a lot of the old people, the old sort of fence lot that used to go by the fence and sort of create a bit of an atmosphere there, I think they've migrated, to the Red Shed, which has left the shed there, the fence very much lacking, shall we say. My seems like it's still there, and a lot of empty seats around, people sitting down. It's not great. It's not fun. I hope it's not like that come the big games.
Yeah, in a few weeks' time. But on the game itself, then, it didn't go as planned. The second half was really a very unlively affair as well. Again, very few clear-cut chances. St Johnstone having a goal disallowed to Glenn Middleton. Turning in, I think Chris Kane got a touch on the cross, but Middleton being ruled outside. David Wotherspoon having a shot from distance, which no one decided to close him down. I don't know why we decided that would be a good idea, but thankfully Wotherspoon had left his shooting boots down in Perth, and his shot went wide of Joe Lewis's right-hand post. But we didn't learn our lesson from closing players down. I wasn't really watching, but again on the radio, William Miller claiming it was Declan Gallagher that should have maybe done a little bit better in the press. Calvin Ramsey, obviously, I think he was the right back. Well, he was the right back, and Stevie May's cutting in from that side. But William Miller felt that Declan Gallagher should have done a bit better in helping out. And I think Joe Lewis could maybe have done a bit better, because bloody hell, that shot was about as slow as the game felt today, as it just trundled into the bottom corner, signalling a mass exodus from Pittodrie and sealing the 3 points back down the road to Perth. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like it was always going to be at some stage that man was going to come back to haunt us.
It just had that sense of inevitability when he came on, the way the game was going, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There was... it was always going to happen one time, and you did sort of feel, oh God, this could be the time. And, but also one thing I will say about the goal, as much as, Aberdeen didn't cover themselves in glory, Stevie May's celebration, I actually respect the shithousery somewhat.
What did he do?
He ran over, unfortunately, it was the corner of the main stand, which I think he would be doing better if he did the Merkland, because people would have gone mental. It would have been great viewing. But he just sort of cupped his ears and was giving it big licks, and he properly went into the corner a little bit. So I respect that. Bail out with it like Bruce Anderson did earlier. Exactly, he didn't half-arse it. The only thing would have made it better would have been if it was the Red Shed. But so I respect Stevie May for that, and likewise St Johnstone fans for singing "Who the fuck is Stevie May?" We deserve it. We deserve it.
Well, at least he made sure I could beat the traffic home. You know, some people say, why did you leave it 1-0? But we could have still been playing. We're recording this at 7:45. The night of the game, we could still be playing now at Calum, and we probably still wouldn't have scored because the last two games we just haven't looked like it at all. Even though we're creating, we don't. And on that point, you know, Stephen Glass again coming out and saying that we were not good enough in the final third. What's wrong with the final third? Is the service to the final third lacking? You know, I touched on it earlier about the time on the training field. We've had a full week to prepare for this game. I saw some folk questioning Alan Russell after the Motherwell game. Should there be question marks over him?
I honestly don't know enough about the man. And what I do know, not great. But I don't know. It seemed to be as if we started off how I feel we should be by now, and we're playing now how I feel like I expected it to start off. I don't know how we're getting progressively worse. I don't really know what's going on. It's just that at times there's service. I think sometimes final ball does lack, but Austin Samuels does melt the ball across a few times. I mean, there's somebody's got to just gamble on these and just be willing to take the hit. It might knock them out, but just, you know, get on the end of it. I think, there's some lack of whatever being clinical. I don't know how you would say that another way, but it's just, I don't know. We seem to be getting worse in the final third rather than better, and it's really baffling. But here's hoping it improves before that run of fixtures. I mean, there's a big chance Curtis Main's going to score against us for St Mirren really now, in a 1-0 defeat, isn't there?
Well, this is you know, our next fixture is a trip down to Paisley a week tomorrow. So it's on Sunday. Obviously, like I said, we're recording this on Saturday. So we head to St Mirren for a 12 o'clock kickoff live on Sky Sports. So for many of you, maybe save the journey for those. Unfortunately, Calum, we're not doing a supporters bus next weekend due to the early kickoff and severe lack of interest on the back of the poor run of results that we've been experiencing. You know, you touched on there, Curtis Main potentially, you know, going to find the back of the net. Speaking on the confidence, the team and strikers are going to go into this game with a lack of confidence. St Mirren are going into this game on the back of 3 straight draws after a right thumping from Celtic at Parkhead. But they took the lead at Easter Road today. Eamon Brophy scoring his first goal since the opening day of the season. So a striker that's maybe going to have a bit of confidence going into the game. But then not only did they then find themselves 2-1 down, but came back to earn a draw with former Dons defender Joe Shaughnessy grabbing the equaliser, his second goal of the season. So not only do we need to worry about Curtis Main scoring against his former club, we've also got Joe Shaughnessy, who has probably scored more goals than our strikers other than Christian Ramirez this season.
True. Probably, I'm going to guess he scored more than Curtis Main as well. So I'm definitely worrying about this. Yeah, definitely worrying about the wrong ex-Aberdeen player. It's always, I don't know, it's always concerning. I quite like Joe Shaughnessy actually, but I don't know. I'm growing more and more sceptical about this game against St Mirren. I think I will be there because I'm going to be down in Glasgow next week anyway, for a load of gigs, which will be fun. But I think it'll end the week badly, and it won't be fun in Paisley. Not much happening there. No offence to the people of Paisley if you're tuning in. And we'll lose, and they won't even sing the Obika song to us this time. So it's not going to be fun. No Obika, no party, in my opinion.
Well, I've got Rory swimming at 12 o'clock on a Sunday, so I'll have the game on recording. And either I'll watch it after the Grand Prix, because the Grand Prix will probably be more enjoyable than the game itself. But I'll watch it one way or another. And I'm not really sure what to look forward to, although I will need to find cover for the week after against Celtic. Obviously, though, Calum, the game is at Paisley, and we've been struggling for goals recently, but St Mirren haven't exactly been blessed for goals at home. Only the one goal that they've scored at home this season, again by Joe Shaughnessy in that 2-1 defeat to Hearts that they suffered, drawing both the other games 0-0. So they know how to be relatively resilient at home. Do we expect this to be another tight affair again, like what we saw today, or do you think there's opportunities for it to be a bit more, and in terms of it, like expansive football on our part?
All signs, in my opinion, seem to point towards it not being a thriller. Given, obviously their resiliency at the back, our unwillingness to score goals, they've not been great at home. It's not filling with confidence any way, shape, or form. But then, knowing my luck, it could then easily be an absolute thriller, and we could come flying out the traps. Eamon Brophy's confident. We've got a leaky defence. Who knows what could happen? Joe Shaughnessy is confident, obviously, as well. And we, once again, have a leaky defence, not great with set pieces. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and exactly. And Joe's going to be a big threat from set pieces. We touched on we've not been able to not only defend set pieces well, but we've not been able to defend the cross ball very well this season as well. And not only will Eamon Brophy be going into this game in confidence, and like I said, bagging for the first time since opening day, but we've also got a bit of an injury concern. We said we're not exactly blessed at the back, but Stephen Glass saying he's hopeful, but can't be 100% sure. Again, obviously this is just post-match comments, so it's difficult to give an assessment straight away. That will Bates be fit enough? And if he's not, it's going to be another change at the back for Aberdeen.
Not great, because I think we noticeably looked a bit less organised without David Bates. When he went 100%. Off today. And, that's not great when you've just brought in Motherwell's captain. I'm sure he's Scotland international. I'm sure he's on a decent wage as well. And then this guy who's been here, way less than half the time, comes in and sort of shores up the defence in a way and looks pretty good on the ball too. So fingers crossed he's ready.
Quite positive with the ball out from the back. But I noticed that Bates was playing right side of the two. Is that where Gallagher's been playing?
With McCrory, I think so. Yeah,
I couldn't remember. I thought it was the other way around and it was a positional change. But no, I do agree that it certainly looked a lot calmer in the defence with those two there. Unfortunate maybe for Mr. Gallagher in that sense, but it's one of those things when you give strikers space, and if they can get the ball on target, you never know what happens. And unfortunately, we paid the price today. Again, we don't want to look too far ahead. We want to try and be as upbeat as possible. But given the fact that we've lost again today, is it imperative that we get 3 points next week?
I would say very important going into this run of fixtures that we get 3 points.
Obviously, there's the international break as well. After the Celtic game. But again, losing ground on both sides of the Edinburgh teams there today, both picking up points. I would like to think we won't lose any ground on Motherwell. Because they've got a trip to Ibrox, but we've talked on the importance of the league position giving guaranteed European football if you finish in the top three. I think it's group stages for third of the Europa League. And if we're not going to get Europe through the league, then you're putting importance onto the Scottish Cup. Otherwise, we've got the Betfred group stages to look forward to.
Can't wait for that. Looking forward to Cove away. That'll be fantastic. A nice short journey up to AB12. But
nice local derby.
Exactly. And I think it is very, very important that we do get these 3 points. Obviously, as you say, losing on some, even though at halftime we were level and they were both losing, we've lost ground on Hearts and Hibs. I think not only in terms of just getting 3 points for once, in terms of confidence as well, because they do at times we did look a bit like a team that were playing like a little bit more sheepishly. If you'll pardon the pun, and lacking confidence. Very, very important. And but to be honest, any 3 points, any win, a little bit of a boost would be nice. Any way, shape or form. Off Curtis Main's bum, take it.
Into our goal, not
their
goal. Sorry, their goal, not our goal.
Oh, we've got no idea what's going on. You can tell it's 5 to 8 on a Saturday evening.
Yeah, you can tell this podcast is as shambolic as ever, but as always, we do appreciate those that tune in and listen, light-hearted look at the Dons events and content that we do try and provide, and also very kind of us, kind of Sky Sports, I should say, to replace our normal Sunday trips to Kilmarnock, Sunday lunchtime trips to Kilmarnock, with a trip to Paisley instead. They do like sending us to shitholes on a Sunday lunchtime, so thanks very much for that, Sky.
If the people of Paisley weren't annoyed at me saying there's not much going on now, then they definitely are annoyed now. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, and just offended the folk of Kilmarnock for no good reason as well.
Yeah, not even in our league anymore. What have they done? Nothing.
No, nothing. But at least Kilmarnock was a more enjoyable away day than Paisley. So
that's very true.
But we hope, Callum, that the next time that we speak on this podcast, we finally have something positive to speak about. I don't think you've got many gigs lined up for the week after, so you will be returning to review the game on Sunday?
Yes, I will be returning to review the game. I will be at the game, and then I'm actually going to McFly after the game on Sunday, which I'm quite excited for. And then I'll be back to beautiful ABZ. Can't wait for that. And I will catch up with you next Monday to do our review of the game on Sunday, and that will be out through the week. Once again, just want to thank those of you that have been tuning in, whether it's listening on Spotify, Amazon, because we are on all your smart players now, so you just need to ask your Alexa to play Red Tinted Glasses, and she should do so. Google Play and Anchor, all those good places as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for the continued support. We've seen a handful of new subscribers, so we hope you are enjoying the content. Seen a lot of you commenting on the player interviews that we've done, the Nicky Lowe one being obviously the most recent, but folk have gone back and watched the Steve Tosh, Richie Byrne, Jack Grimmer, Jamie Smith, Cammy Smith. It was just great to see people delving into the archives, isn't it, Callum? It is very much welcome. You can find them on the channel at some points throughout the video. There'll be the card things in the corners. Oh, great stuff. And end screen. I don't know which one I'm going to pick yet, but I'll pick a random one. And if you've not watched it, be sure to check it out.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to them, you can scroll back through the archives. Like I said, we've been doing this just over a year, so we do appreciate all the support. We are on social media as well: Twitter at @RTG_podcast, Instagram rtg.podcast as well. So thank you very much for tuning into this episode, and hopefully, Callum will be back with a bit more positivity next week, from both of us.
Fingers crossed. But thank you very much for tuning in, everybody.